Hi there, I'm Bill Holkham, and I want to start off by wishing you all a Happy New Year and thank everyone for all the likes and comments on our most recent videos. It is really appreciated. We have a lot of exciting tutorials planned for 2025, so we hope you will continue to follow along and enjoy the videos. Today, we are off to Switzerland, a country with so much beauty and endless painting opportunities. You can download my free sketch in the description, where you will also find a list of today's materials. So let's get painting. I start with my number 12 round brush, and I'm laying on some clear water over the whole of the sky area. This is a first tip I will give you when painting a sky that is not too cluttered, not with lots of colours and various cloud shapes, but quite basic. So some blue coming through here and there and white clouds, that much. And you'll see that as it progresses. So lay on the clear water. You can leave little gaps here and there in the sky with dry areas, but most of it has been covered. And then I've gone into Winsor Blue, at first quite a weak mixture, so not too much pigment, into the sky area. Lay that down with gaps here and there, so you got the white showing through, the white of the paper. And you will see another tip I have is every now and then I'll use some tissue to take off some of the excess fluid on my brush so that I can retain more control. If I have too much on the brush, then the tendency is to lose control, because with an excess of fluid on the brush, that has nowhere to go and it searches for places to go and will extend far beyond what you wanted, and so you're losing control. So here and there now, just strengthening very slightly some of those blue areas, emphasizing the contrast. Now I am painting the distant mountain range in a nice grey colour. So your blue with a tiny touch of your red, such as Alizarin Crimson. Dry that off, and then my next tip, to show light areas, perhaps snow-covered areas, but certainly light areas where the sun is catching. Once that is dry, you can use a bristle brush, normally used for oil painting, to have a little bit of water on it. Lay that down, scrape it, because this is very robust paper, the Arches 300, and a clean tissue to lift. And that indicates your light areas and other things such as snow-covered areas. Then I've gone to a mop size brush to lay down a yellow wash as an underpainting in the foreground area and in some of the trees and bushes that are starting to climb towards the mountain range. So Winsor Yellow first, then a little bit of blue next with your Winsor Yellow. Not yet at this stage the Sap Green. That will come later to allow us to darken certain areas. Then I've dried that off with the hairdryer, mopping the edges first to avoid creep back. I'm gone to a small size brush, something like a number 5 will do. 4 is fine if you have it, or 6. Just a small brush to allow you to retain control. And I'm painting in the various buildings with roofs and so forth. And here my other tip would be, remember about negative painting. As you know, negative painting is a situation where you paint around something to leave the white of the paper, or it might be that you've already laid a ground of colour down and then you're laying another colour and painting around that first ground colour. Thus called negative painting, because you're leaving an area. Here and there's a good variety of colourful hues of bushes and trees and so forth, which gives us the opportunity for a great deal of variety, with the light coming from the left, therefore catching light areas being caught on the left and casting shadows to the right. So a nice transition, a nice contrast. This is the busiest part of the painting, with all the buildings, trees and bushes and so forth in that part of the painting. And I would mention as well at this stage that you will hear me talk in other tutorials about the positioning of principal subjects in the painting. So for instance, if you think of a square in the middle of this piece of paper, it has 4 points. And with the buildings, with the church spire and so forth, that is on the bottom left-hand point of a square as a principal area of interest. And here we also have on the top right-hand part of a square in the middle of the painting, where the main mountain range is and the waterfall cascading down, which we'll come on to later. So we've got two very particular points of interest going on here. So this is a case of laying down your light colours, fusing in your darker colours, remembering to leave certain light showing through for the variation, and where the light is coming from the left and casting shadows to the right. At this stage, I will have been adding some of the Sap Green from your palette to the colour mixture. So some Winsor Yellow, some Winsor Blue, and some Sap Green. Mix those up in various intensities on your palette so that you can dip into them as you need them as you paint along. For the mountain on the left side of the painting, I've used some of the yellow. You could use yellow ochre as well if you wish, and a little bit of light red. And I've gone to a number 8 brush round. So that mountain range is really the middle distance. So we've got that far distance mountain range and this middle distance. And then on the right hand side, where the waterfall mountain range is still considered middle distance, but is coming much more towards the foreground. So the right hand side is a little bit more forward than this left hand mountain range. Whilst that's wet, you can lay on some green underground, and we're doing some wet in wet again. And once this is dried, which can speed up the process with the hairdryer, then we'll be coming on to laying a little bit more structure in that rocky area. So here we go. This is my next tip for you, using the side of the brush scraping technique. We refer to it as a dry brush. It's not, of course, totally dry, but it's much less liquid, more pigment, less liquid. So less water, more pigment. And then turn the brush to the side and scrape down. And then you give texture to those rocky areas, and also some texture here to the grasses growing along the lower section of the rocky area. Then with the rocky areas on the right hand side, we followed the same process. So the video would be extremely long if we showed every single brushwork. It would take hours and hours of work. So you would get bored with that. So we've done enough to tell the story, and you repeat that process for the rock areas, the cliffs, and the mountain areas on the right hand side. But Our next tip again is with respect to the waterfall that you see here starting to form, is negative painting again. With transparent watercolor, the English style, we leave the white of the paper for your whites, achieved by leaving those white areas, sometimes through negative painting, by painting dark areas on either side of the white, as we're doing here now. And you'll see as this forms with a nice contrast with light and dark, it looks more and more convincing that this is water cascading down the mountainside. If you use Chinese white or body color in that situation, that white will jump out at you and will not look anywhere near as natural. You will see we'll come back to that waterfall area a little bit more later because I'm letting that underpainting dry off. So whilst that's drying off, I'm painting in some more of the trees and bushes in the middle ground coming towards the foreground. And I have fused the edges to the left side. You can do that with little amount of water on your brush and mix in the dark and the light with that water to fuse them in. So a natural transmission between the light and the dark. For this foreground grassed area, we've laid down some Winsor Yellow, and whilst that's wet going on, with something like your number 8 brush, and then you've got your green mixture, which can be your Winsor Blue with the yellow and perhaps some sap green added if you wish. Now we're emphasizing the features in this area of mountain range on the right hand side, and emphasizing lights and darks. And here we have it, a finished painting. I think this is quite impactful, nice and colorful, lots of contrast with light and dark, and I hope you tackle this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.